In the wake of a huge, peaceful protest in Hong Kong that brought, according to organizers, more than 1.5 million pro-democracy demonstrators to the streets over the weekend, there's praise today for protesters coming from Hong Kong police.
The protest that took place on Sunday shows if protesters are peaceful, rational, and orderly, the police will not and have no reason to intervene.
Protests started in Hong Kong roughly 11 weeks ago over a now suspended extradition bill that would have allowed suspects to be sent to China for trial. But the movement, which has seen violent clashes between police and demonstrators, has grown to include a pushback to Beijing's influence. Amid the protests, China's embassy in Ottawa is now issuing a warning to Canada, saying in part the Canadian side should be cautious on its words and deeds regarding the Hong Kong-related issue. And the embassy is urging Canada to immediately stop meddling in Hong Kong affairs and China's internal affairs. The comments coming a day after Foreign Affairs Minister Chrystia Freeland released a joint statement by Canada and the European Union on the situation in Hong Kong that reads in part, fundamental freedoms, including the right of peaceful assembly and Hong Kong's high degree of autonomy under the one country, two systems principle, must continue to be upheld. The statements come amid an ongoing diplomatic dispute between Canada and China that started in December with the arrest of Chinese telecoms giant Huawei CFO Meng Wanzhou in Vancouver at the request of the U.S. Just days later, Beijing detained 2 Canadians, and now China is blocking shipments of some Canadian goods. Here in Canada over the weekend in cities like Toronto, Vancouver, and Calgary, rallies were held with both pro-Hong Kong and pro-Beijing protesters turning out. Canadian lawyer Andrea Chung, who immigrated from Hong Kong, weighing in today on the divisions.
Chinese from the mainland who oppose this, they see this movement as a direct challenge of Beijing's authority on Hong Kong. They see violence as a threat to the regime's power and grip on Hong Kong. Hong Kongers do not see this as a challenge to Beijing's authority. In fact, they want Beijing to keep their promise of self or high autonomy for 50 years until 2047.
And more on the Canadian stance coming from Justin Trudeau speaking today in Quebec City.
We repeat our calls for peace, for de-escalation, for listening by local authorities and by the Chinese government to the preoccupations expressed by the citizens of Hong Kong.